53, hold the air. I see the subject inside. Looks like he's got a gun in his hand, and he's pointing at the clerk. Guys, I've got the south covered behind you. Watch the crossfire. Running southbound, Rob. He's coming right at you.
All units, Victor 3, Victor 5 are fighting with 1. Hold the air.
Victor 3, slow down. Subject in custody. Firearm recovered.
Copy that. Command clear. Subject is in custody for the robbery. Firearms recovered.
Hey, welcome back to Hold the Air podcast. Seated next to me is my boy Rob.
Man, love you, Cos.
Yeah.
Love sharing the studio with you, man.
Yeah, so we're starting to get a flow. We're starting to feel good about this. Is a task. Like when you're doing a podcast, you're trying to figure out how to talk and flow and all this stuff. We've got many episodes. Hopefully you guys are watching them, and hopefully you're subscribed. Today's episode is going to be fun. A dear friend of mine that I met at LPD and continues to be a friend and will be a friend till I take my last breath. We've got Joel Mires in the Hold the Air podcast studio today, and I'm super excited just to have some fun, off the cuff conversation, and to let people know this dude did 25 years. He did it honorably. He did it passionately. He'll tell you himself that it wasn't a perfect ride, but damn it if he wasn't trying every day to do what he was supposed to do with the responsibility that he was given.
Damn right.
Yeah.
100%. Nobody would ever take away from Joel Mires. He's a hard-working, street dog son of a gun, man.
Yeah.
We're so proud to have you in the studio, man. Thanks for joining us today, brother. Give us a little bit about your background, Joel, with where you came from. We know a lot about you just because we've been friends all these years and everything, but tell us about a young man in the Army and how you knocked in the door of law enforcement, man.
Well, as a kid, I was brought up in a patriotic family, having a dad that fought in Vietnam in the Marine Corps and two grandfathers that were in World War II. My maternal grandfather fought for Patton's Army. He was a tanker in World War II and was one of the first to cross the bridge at Remagen to take that bridge in World War II. My paternal grandfather fought at the Battle of the Bulge in the Army. And then, like I said, my dad was in the Marines in Vietnam. So naturally, I'm going to go into the military. And I served 3 years in active duty, 4 years in the National Guard. And my dad also retired as a lieutenant from the Lansing Police Department before I hired on in '94. And he was an inspiration to me. He was my mentor. He was my best friend. And he really taught me what it meant to serve your country honorably.
That's fantastic. How old were you when you joined the Army?
17.
17?
17, yep. When I graduated from high school, I was 17, and I went right into the Army, and I did basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, in the infantry.
Wow, so you went in there with a lot of life experience.
Yeah, right. 17 years old, I graduated from Langsburg High School, and I wanted to join the Marines, but my dad talked me out of it. He said, son, go in the Army. You're going to get better equipment. You're going to be able to volunteer for airborne school. Any kind of great school that you want, you'll have more of an opportunity in the Army. So that's what I did. And looking back at it, I don't regret it one bit, because the 3 years that I served in active duty really molded me to what I am now as a man, and gave me the discipline that I needed to be an effective police officer at the Lansing Police Department, no question about it.
So if you could reach back in your memory, like right off the hip, in your 3-year Army experience that sticks out, whether basic training.
My patrol leader, I was a corporal at the time. He was a staff sergeant, which in the Army is an E6. He got injured on one of our ambush patrols, because we did live combat patrols. We did reconnaissance patrols during the day, and then we did combat patrols at night. Just in case the North Koreans decided to come across, we'd be a speed bump, basically. But anyway, I had to get evaluated, and I passed the evaluation process to be a patrol leader to conduct those reconnaissance and ambush patrols.
At 19.
At 19 years old, yeah.
Joel, I can't even remember. I know what I was doing when I was 19 years old.
What is going on?
Yeah.
That's
I wasn't
incredible.
patrolling nothing when I was 19
man.
years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there,
So from there, I decided to get out of active duty because the only thing I wanted to do my whole life was be a Lansing police officer.
Because your dad.
Because of my dad. And I grew up in the Lansing police family. When I was a kid, everybody was really close. We had parties together. My dad and I went to the Sleeping Bear Dunes when I was about 8 years old on a father and son trip with Tom Bolin, his kids, and a lot of the other old timers that a lot of people aren't even going to know who they are.
yeah.
But it was a family.
Yeah.
It was just a fantastic thing to experience, and I always knew what I wanted to do my whole life, which a lot of kids don't have that nowadays.
Yeah.
I always knew exactly what I wanted to do.
So a calling, right? We've said it before on the
Yeah.
podcast. Like,
Right.
I think the people that Rob and I and yourself that respect the most, right, are the people that you can look at and you can tell that they're inspired to do this service job 100%. They're not. It's not a status thing. It's not a power thing. It's this idea that I want to serve, right? I want to serve people, and there's so many different facets to that. You know what I mean? We know that from 25 years of law enforcement. When did you apply to LPD? How old were you when you applied at LPD?
When I would show up on calls, a lot of people didn't believe I was a cop
Yeah.
because I was so young.
To me, one of the biggest skills in law enforcement is can you put the ego aside and go to call and provide a service, right, to someone who needs it for whatever situation might be going down. And it might be a stabbing, it might be a domestic, it could be a death notification, it could be a fatal car accident. Knowing what I know about you and when I met you, one of the things I knew right off the bat, dude, was like you gave a shit about people. The patience to do the job. Where did that come from?
Came from my dad. My dad taught me to treat everyone with respect, no matter what ethnicity they were. And having gone through some personal trauma myself, I looked at people when I was going on a call like they were a relative. They're
Wow.
going through some stuff. And we're representing the best of the best. We're supposed to. So when I show up on a call, first of all, I'm going to look professional. Second of all, I'm going to treat everyone with respect. Now, I'll put the hammer down if I need to. And, that didn't happen a lot. But when people call the police, they're at a low point in their life.
Yep.
And I would encourage anyone to be empathetic to a police officer, no matter what call they're going on. And some of my best command officers always told me, when you go on a call, you need to treat that person like it's your aunt or uncle.
Yep.
Now, there's certain circumstances, depending on what you're doing. Maybe we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
When I worked night shift in the southeast portion of Lansing, that you have to change your mindset.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Depending on what kind of call you're on, police work is a dynamic profession. It's an
right.
art.
It is an art.
Yes.
It's an art.
It is an art.
And you have to adjust your art, your portrait, whatever, depending on what kind of call you're on.
Yeah.
That is a fact.
is a fact.
It's very, very little of it is scientific. Very little of it is 1 + 1 = 2. The bulk of it is, how do we get this to equal to? You know what I mean? Like, there is no formula to get here. We just got to figure it out. And, it's no surprise to me, Joel, that you were Kaz's FTO, being as empathetic as you are, because that influence that you had to him, he's the most empathetic person I've ever seen. You know, and I think a lot of that he comes by naturally, but what a dynamic to have someone like yourself that's now the training officer that can get that to really blossom and flourish in a young recruit that's just trying to figure it out. Right. I'm just trying to figure out what way north is most of the time. You know what I mean? But it's no surprise how you are, and how you policed with trying your very best to make the connection with someone that is in whatever traumatic event bubbled to the surface, and that's what prompted us to get called. Most of the time, and I learned the hard way, and a lot of it, you know, I very much could be empathetic in the right scenario, but it had to be sexy for me to be empathetic. And what I learned is a lot through your influence is when you're empathetic everywhere you go, boy, it comes back to you. Not just when it's a quote unquote real victim. Like that's what I was seeking when I was young, especially young in my career. I mean, you know, I would look at some of this, a lot of this violence that is in the street where it's people in a lifestyle that I have no experience with. I have no barometer to gauge what their problems are compared to mine, because it is totally different, right? And I wanted to look at that like somehow that was below me. And what I found was that is the wrong approach. What I found was making that connection with someone, even though our lifestyles are dramatically different in this and that, and I can't really understand what it is to be you. I can very much treat you with respect. That came natural to me, but really try to give them the best service that I can. You know, it's awesome that you were his FTO and you know, you weren't my FTO, obviously. You know, we were there most of the time, but just watching you work, man, it was it's cool to see that bloodline go back to him.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I really think, and we've said this on previous podcasts, Joel, like the FTO, how many years did you do that?
15 years.
Yeah.
I was at NFD. I probably trained 70 people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because there was a large influx of hiring during my whole time.
We always were asking, right, when we're going through the program, you probably did the same, like, who do you have next in the next phase? When I found out that I was going with you, because in the first phase or two, I was in the deep water and I wasn't doing well. And then I got you, and I remember people telling me, "Oh, dude, he's good. You're gonna like him. Like he's stern, but you're gonna figure it out. And if you don't figure it out with Joel, you're probably not gonna be working here."
Yeah, man.
So the idea of being able to go to somebody who was at the time a stranger, and then get in the car. I remember when I got in the car with you, there was no sense of if you screw up, I'm nailing your ass.
Yeah,
it
man.
was, we are a team. We're going to get out here. We're going to do this thing. And this is how this is what I expect from you. And I remember that conversation. I remember how passionate you were about, you need to know where you are at every time. Just driving down the street because something could present itself, and you're looking around for a street sign and you don't know it. There's no street sign there. You used to you would dude, we'd be driving down the street and Joel would be like, "Stop! There's something going on. Where you at?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know."
Hey, how about this one as an FTO? You ever have your training officer say this? "Hey, stop that car."
Yeah.
And you don't know why you're stopping that car.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
But he sees it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we're stopping it for a
yeah.
reason. I'm sure he'll enlighten me at some point.
Yeah, and the whole idea of how important that was eventually played out. And then when you weren't my FTO and I was with someone else, and I was getting better at paying attention to the street sign after I'd passed it, and knowing that confidence slowly started to develop. But your style, your teaching style, was assertive, but it was forgiving, for sure, dude. So I'm glad I got to be a recruit of yours.
And where that comes from is at a very young age, I was already faced with stressful situations.
There you go.
Throw a 19-year-old in the Army and say, you're a patrol leader now, and you're responsible for navigating around minefields. You have to set up ambush positions, and we used claymores at the time. And you're in charge of that. Why am I going to make a training environment stressful for someone?
Right.
Why am I going to add to that learning curve? Because police work is stressful enough.
Right.
I mean, shit, most people that come into it, they can't talk on the radio and turn the spotlight on at the same time.
Right. You ain't lying.
Why am I going to be a jerk
Yeah.
and throw you off because I have this power?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's not what it's about. It's about learning. You're my partner, and everybody that was my recruit was my partner.
Yeah.
I'm going to depend on you, and you're going to depend on me. And that's the approach that I took.
Yep.
I had a kind of a hard time with it because I'm a take charge guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk to some of my recruits, I would always tell them, all right, I'm going to let you handle this call. But then we would get on it. And man, I was just like, damn, man, I gotta get in it now.
Yeah, because they're missing it, right?
Yeah, because
so get it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Because they're close to
Right.
the piece of information that you need to seal the deal, right? Whatever
Yeah.
call it might be on, and they can't see it,
Right.
And they're going, and now it's like, oh damn, I got to get in here and do something. Next thing you know, you've handled 80% of the call, and the crew's just sitting there like, what's going on?
That's a fact.
So what was cool with Joel? Joel speaks Spanish, so we would once I think Joel trusted me once he. Once we started working and I started to kind of get the idea of what he expected and I was having fun coming into work because, like I said, before Joel, I was stumbling all over the place in the FTO program.
Hold on a second, because that's really interesting because so many times people, especially the people that we work with, Lansing PD, right?
Yeah.
They see John Cosme 25 years later, right? And I think that this is a really important piece of the puzzle because they look, and rightfully so, they look at you as the Michael Jordan of Lansing PD.
Oh.
And look, you're humble about it, and I appreciate that about you, and we do too, but that's the fact. I can't think of any, not to say that before us or people that we don't know about, that they were great too. I'm talking about who we know in this era, so to speak. You're the best ever, right? In what you do. But people want to see the end result. And I think it's really important for you to give the viewing audience just a glimpse of how much you struggled and stumbled early on in your career. You almost didn't make it through the FTO process. Before we kick it back, land on that for a second, because people look at Michael Jordan, but they forget that Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team back in the day, and they just look at the best ever, right?
It makes me feel really, really uncomfortable. I appreciate the compliment, dude, and I really do. I appreciate. I really appreciate it. But man, I didn't have the success at LPD from what I brought to LPD when I first started. It was through meeting the right kind of people, and if it wasn't for you and Del Costanco, I wouldn't have worked here. I got directed to you for a reason. I got directed to Del Costanco for a reason. They knew that you guys were at the time the FTOs that could basically save a young person's career if they were going to have one. Like if you go to Joel and you go to Del and after that you're still scraping your knees, you're not cut out to be a police officer at the Lansing Police Department. So, I mean, now that I have you in the studio and we're lifelong friends, dude, just for the public to know, I absolutely freaking cannot thank you enough for all that. Yeah, like you said, bro, I landed on my forehead, man.
Look, all recruits stumble, right?
No,
like there's no perfect recruit.
It's the middle. It's the middle of the winter. The roads are icy, and
and
they gave the keys to Ray Charles. Yeah, bro. Like I couldn't see my ass from my forehead, bro. And I couldn't. And I didn't know how to tell it to you, Joel. Like when I got the car with you, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Because I was so afraid to engage, or I was so afraid to be wrong or to make a mistake. And my orientation was crud, absolute crud. So when you started holding me to task, okay, yeah. And then we're driving around, and where are you right now? I don't know. That's not good enough, bro. So you get a mulligan, but next time I ask you, it's going to be reflected on your DOR. So, man, I'm reading street signs, eating them up, and then I would get closer to what you wanted as an answer.
Right.
And then eventually the rhythm, and then I started to get more relaxed. And then I think after I left you, I went to Dell, got my first foot chase, and I remember eating up street signs as I'm running because of how you tasked me every freaking day, 3 times a day, to just, the information's in front of you, dude. Just grab it and calm down a little bit. Chase this guy, I don't know, the south end somewhere. He runs into a house. He's sitting on the toilet. We break into the house, not break into the house, but we go in the house because the homeowner's like, hey, this idiot just ran through our house, and we get him off the toilet. We're banging on the bathroom door, and he's sweating. What's up, bro? I'm like, dude, this ain't your house. We eat him up, And I can remember, like, that's when the veil came off. That's when
wow.
I remember all the words, all the coaching that you gave me, all the coaching that Dell gave me. It's like, okay, I think I can do this. I think that once I stopped being so critical of what I can't do and start thinking about what I can do, but that wouldn't have had a starting place, dude. If the powers that be at the time didn't say, okay, he needs to go to Joel and he needs to go to Dell.
It's amazing.
Flat out. Flat out wouldn't have happened, dude.
The way I looked at it is we're going to worry about the big shit.
There you go.
The big stuff. Where you're at, officer safety.
Yep.
Those were my 2 big things.
Yep.
And obviously being able to communicate that on paper, your report writing.
Yeah.
You can do those 3 things, we can teach the rest, man.
Also, too, I remember from you, though, Joel, was like, when it's time to engage.
Yep.
Like, if your FTO is 10 toes down and he's moving forward, and it's time to take somebody off, meaning take him into custody, use a level of force that we're allowed to do, and it gets messy and it gets ugly, you wanted to know, can you do that? I remember that from you, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's coming. I can feel that this idea of having the responsibility of all this authority is going to make sense, because now it's time to go, and this person doesn't want to cooperate, and this guy's leading the way.
As long as you had all the elements covered,
Yep.
whether it was a state law or city ordinance violation, you got them covered, and it's time to take action. Don't mess around.
Right.
That is a fact, Jack.
Yeah, dude.
Otherwise, you're gonna get hurt.
Yep. Would you agree, Joel? Knowing that you were coming in here, I was just thinking about stuff throughout the day. I was like, I think that the biggest problem that we get in as law enforcement people, what gets us on the news, CNN or whatever outlet wants to take advantage of a police officer's mistake, is ego. I think if we can teach these young people to not operate in the world of ego, but emotional control. Like, you need to show that you have emotional control at every call you go to, because they're going to be mad at you at some of these calls. They're going to be expecting a lot from you at some of these calls. And like you said, the elements of the crime, and we have to operate in the world of procedures and legality. And we get frustrated. It's easy to get frustrated. And then when our ego takes over, we're in trouble.
You know what will save a career? Emotional intelligence and communication.
I believe that.
And slow shit down.
Yep. Slow it down.
Even if you're so spot on, Joel, even if, because look, this job that we do, right? We are not robots. We are emotional creatures, and sometimes the emotional temperature gets raised. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. Sometimes we get sucked into something, and you know, hopefully we realize the bigger picture. But man, I'll tell you what. To double down what you're talking about, Joel, communication. More often than not, what I found was if we get over emotional about something, and when I say we, I mean the police and the people that we're on the call with, right? Communication, 99 times out of 100 for me, communication would fix that because I would own it. And I would tell someone, man, look, I'm sorry, I'm getting overboard here. Or maybe they got arrested and it was a little rough. Man, this ain't nothing personal. Let's get up. Let's dust you off here. Let's make some phone calls to your family and loved ones. Let them know that you're in jail. Things like that. Like a little communication will absolutely fix some over if you're overly emotional about something. Have you ever found that?
Here's the thing, knowing your community. So I'm going to put this into perspective for you. So when I was a detective, we were watching a guy who was showing up at a funeral that was wanted for murder. We knew he was going to be there.
Wow.
And we had everything set up, and we took him into custody. We had to. We couldn't find him. It had been a long time. Took him into custody. When he came out of the funeral home, everybody was up in arms. And I said, okay, I know this community pretty good. And I went to the oldest woman coming out, grandma. And they were like, I can't believe you guys did this. The police are here. It's a funeral. And I took grandma aside because I knew my community and I had experience.
Yep.
At this point, I had 22 years on at the job. And I talked to her for a minute and I told her why we did it. And I calmly explained it to her the best that I could. And I was empathetic with what was going on because it did happen at a funeral. And she said, listen here, everybody. This man came here to do his job, and I need everybody to calm down.
There you go.
That, and I don't want to take credit because it's experience, it's emotional intelligence, and it's knowing the community.
Yeah, but you're getting it back, Joel, because the 22 or 25 years previous to all this, that's what you put out there. Yep. You put it out there, and this isn't a perfect game. We don't pitch a perfect game in law enforcement. But when you wake up every day, you're excited to come into work, you deal with whatever adversities on whatever calls you're going to, and you come back with the same kind of energy that you had, dude, you smiled all the time. You were singing. You made up songs. I mean, if people don't know Joel Mires, this dude is a stick of dynamite.
Yeah, he is.
And I once I really got to know you, dude, I was like, oh man, I'm lucky. I was lucky. I was lucky to have shared my experience with this dude because, I mean, later in your career, you became a negotiator, and then when I got on the team, you were still on the team, and I know that you put your heart and soul, like you did not like losing a negotiation, and it was a very passionate part of your career, and you didn't hold back. You know, you put your best foot forward. Tell us about your negotiating.
So I had served in the Army in a special operations unit in some really gung-ho units. I didn't care about laying on the ground anymore and being on a perimeter and being entry and all that stuff. So as a negotiator, I felt like I was the first line of defense for the TAC guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if I can get somebody to come out safe, and there were a couple instances like at the Super 8, and early in my career up on the north end of town when that little boy was killed. But for police officers, if I could prevent a police officer from getting shot, I was happy.
Yeah.
A lot of them, damn, we can't do that. We can't take the shot. But you know what? I just saved that person a lot of grief. And I felt that it was their first line of defense for safety.
Dude, if you don't mind, if this is a big ask, I totally get it. But walk us through that, because I know which one you're talking about, the one up in the north end. If you don't mind, could you explain like the nature of the car, how long you were on a negotiator, how long the call took, and because it was tough.
A guy was estranged from his wife, and he was mad at her, and to spite her, he was going to kill their 2-year-old son.
Oh man.
And he had a muzzle loader to the chest of the 2-year-old. And we were in active negotiations with him on the phone.
How long were you on the phone?
It was a long time. I remember we were in a van, and I was in this van. Primary was Winslow. God rest her soul.
Yeah, shout out to her. She was
Kathy
amazing.
Winslow.
Yeah, she
Man.
was. Kathy Winslow was amazing.
She was
fantastic. She was primary negotiator, and I don't remember who the coach was, but I was more in a intelligence gathering observation mode. And we negotiated with him. Oh man, it must have been 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
And we had our tactical guys all set up. And the negotiations failed, and he killed the 2-year-old while he was in his crib. And we had our throw phone in there so we could hear everything going on. And we could hear Mom screaming. And then they started putting the CS canisters in there and everything. And the 2-year-old was dead, and he shot himself.
How do you hit the reset button from that, Joel?
Well, it's hard because I had a child about the same age. You hit the reset button to understand that we're providing a service to people. Obviously, everybody was in crisis. And you look at it like shit like that is going to happen while we're doing the job. And all we can do is our best.
Damn
Yeah.
right.
And we all tried our best. And there's nothing that I think we could have did any better on that call. We tried to do a training session. We would do our negotiator conferences and stuff.
Yep.
And it affected me because we would do presentations at these negotiator conferences, and they wanted to play the 911 tape back and stuff. And I was like, if you're going to play it back, I'm going to take a step out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that when you talk about a reset button, you got to understand that there's just some stuff you don't want to go through that trauma again.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that I don't want to go through.
Yeah. That is, if you've never done a long negotiation, it is as taxing as going to the gym and having a 2-hour workout. Emotionally, you have moments where you're like, okay, this is going to work. We're trending towards the right type of conversation. You're sitting there, you're being an active listener, and now you've got some empathy built up, and you're paraphrasing, and you're doing all the techniques, and you're getting some type of 10 hours of that. And the whole time you're visualizing, if you don't win this thing, a horrible thing's going to happen.
It's on the line.
Now, in contrast, when it's an adult, Super 8, when the guy took the girl hostage and was wanted by the feds.
Yep.
I don't remember the year.
Yep.
He started shooting at us through the wall. One of the other negotiators was primary. I was gathering intelligence, and I was talking to the tactical commander, and we went through the whole process, the checklist as to whether or not this guy was negotiable or not. He wasn't. He was non-negotiable.
Yep.
And when he started shooting at us through the wall, and I was back in the stack quite a bit, we knew it was time to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
That did not have the traumatic effect. And I'm not speaking for the guys that had to go in first because
Sure.
they're beyond the pale, man.
Yeah, man.
Heroes.
Heroes. They did
They
a great
did
job.
what they were supposed to do. But if you put it into perspective, it depends on the circumstance. And with mine, early in my career, when it dealt with a little kid, which is kind of funny because later in my career, when I was working Special Victims Unit, which is another tough job,
Oh man, I cannot imagine.
it puts it into perspective for you.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the circumstances are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I almost made it through my career without being involved in an OIS. Was involved in a fatal OIS. When one of your guys gets shot and you're complete like survival mode, it just lands different. It just lands different because you're hardwired to, I'm going home. I'm going home. The circumstances that led up to that, very unfortunate, right? For the victim, for the family. But when you're sitting there trying to provide a peaceful service and it turns violent, we win the violence. We have to win the violence. And I agree with you. That for me, I went home and I was just happy to go home. I was happy to pull in my driveway, see my dogs, you know. I knew my wife was shook up by that, but she knew that I was hardwired to, you know, you promised me getting into this career, you were coming home. The negotiation stuff, when you lose one, you're sitting there, and I don't know if you questioned yourself at all, Joel, if you went back and said, damn, maybe I should have used this technique or whatever. But on a long negotiation like that, I don't think there's anything left, right?
No.
There was nothing left. We did everything that we could. We covered everything that we could cover. And I'm going to compliment, I think that we have the best start team in the state.
They're badass, bro.
They're badass.
Do a great job.
They do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They provide a great service.
Yes, they do.
And they're well trained. And I knew at the end of the day, we did everything that we could do.
Yep.
To save him, we saved the woman.
Yep.
And he made that choice. And when I was on the phone with his brother, and I'll never forget it, he said to me, he said, he's not coming out, man.
Oh.
Who knows him better than his brother?
Oh.
And I talked to the start team commander, and I said, listen, we've covered everything that we can. I talked to his brother. He's not coming out. But it wasn't long after that he started shooting
Yeah.
through the wall,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yep.
He decided what he was going to do.
Sure.
We didn't.
Right.
We took action.
Yes.
He decided what he was going to do.
Well,
Yeah.
we took action on something that he's already put into action. Like we're
Exactly.
reacting to his action,
Yeah.
Right.
which is automatically slower.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like we're reacting to this as it's unfolding. That we're always behind the eight ball with that.
Right. That's a great point.
You know.
And that's the beauty of it, right? So when you, like you went through your career and you started out, you know, being a PO1, and then you became an FTO, and then you became a negotiator, and then I had the privilege of working with you on the narcotics team. Dude, you never weren't what you were. What Joel Mires was as a patrol officer is what you got as an FTO trainer, is what you got as a negotiator, and for damn sure what you got as an undercover person. I can remember when we would give briefs, and you know sometimes you're in a room of cops and it's moving fast, and you've got a deal set up, and you got your briefing notes set up, and you're ready to talk to your group, and you're the one buying dope. You're the one that's going to go out there and go into the house and put yourself right in front of the dope man who might have a pistol in his waistband. You want everybody's attention on your team. But sometimes, you know, we're just sitting there, you know, doing what cops do, and we're not paying attention at a briefing. I remember one time, dude, you're about to go on one, man, and we're over there just little cackling. Everyone's cackling on the side, and I watched you, and I'm like, oh, Joel's going to have a moment here. And it just, whatever came out of Joel's chest, it came out.
That's right.
You need to pay attention. I'm going to be on there. I'm the one taking the risk, and you motherfuckers. And I was like,
101st Airborne, motherfucker.
And
I remember that.
Yeah, and listen, if I could paint the picture, Joel's got flowing Fabio like locks, bro. I mean, his hair's down to here. He looks the part, and he is just freaking giving it. And he wasn't wrong.
No.
He wasn't wrong. But like I said, we don't pitch a perfect game. There's nobody in that room that wanted anything bad to happen to Joel. But the devil's in the details. And if you're not paying attention to it, it's going to zap your ass. And that's the passion that you did. Every phase of your life at LPD, you carried that passion. And if you barked, and if you did, no one held it against you.
That's right.
The next day we came into work.
Damn right.
Joel's coming through the door, and he's just like, "Woo! What that was great yesterday, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, bro, we're great after you yelled at us."
But
Hey, sometimes people need to get yelled at.
Yeah,
and it's scary buying guns and cocaine and all that kind of shit. So I was like, I was a little intense.
Yeah.
yeah, dude. But you had gotten up to the point, dude, where, if I remember correctly, everything that Joel was touching was turning to gold, right? So, but listen, dude, once you know you can do that undercover narcotics, dark world stuff. I don't know about you, dude, but it consumed my thought process. I'm not losing. I'm going to make the case. I'm going to figure this thing out. I think, if I remember correctly, even you as a patrol officer were working the motels. And give us a little snapshot. You worked the motels with Nick Hewitt. Love Nick Hewitt. Love that guy. But you guys were real street cops. You guys were real street cops. And one of your interdiction nights on the motels led that traffic stop and drug seizure and eventual whatever led to a huge one.
It was coast to coast.
Yeah, one of Lansing's
coast to coast.
One of Lansing's largest drug investigations on record.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, tell us a little bit about that.
So from about 2003 to 2012, I was working night shift.
Yep.
In the southeast corner of Lansing. And it went from District 18 to District 16, right? Mm. Man, when I was assigned to the South End nights, those hotels were blowing up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck has been going on here for the last years?
Yeah.
I mean, cars in and out, staying for a short time. I'm stopping cars, not stopping at the stop sign at Ramada and Penn and getting warrant hits and drugs on every stop. So I'm thinking, man, this is a treasure trove.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started
potential.
Untapped potential.
Yeah.
And I hit it. Mm-hmm. And, I have to mention my buddy Nick, Nick Hewitt.
Yep.
He was my partner working nights for those 8 years, best years of my career.
Yeah.
So, when you hit about that 10, 12 year mark, law enforcement, it gets a little like, damn, man, this is, it's a job and I'm going to work, man. But working with Nick, it was fantastic. And we did a lot of good work on those hotels.
Yeah.
They were out of control. And I started doing hotel interdiction. I went to school for it. There were a couple of classes that we went to for interdiction. And we hit it. And the amount of guns and drugs and warrants I got out of those places, we killed it. And there was one night when we hit the mother lode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, that's to not discredit anyone's honest effort to own a business here in Lansing. But we're not the kind of people that are just going to sit back and be politically correct about people that are running a business in a bullshit way. So if your hotel or motel has drawn that kind of clientele,
expect the police.
Expect the police.
You should expect the police.
Because as soon as a bullet leaves a barrel and kills someone, they're calling us to clean it up.
Yep.
If we don't want the bullet to leave the barrel, we put Joel Mires and Nick Hewitt on hotel interdiction until they figure it out. So there's no apologies there for us mentioning the fact that you had to police these areas so hard, because if we didn't, right, the things that were going to happen were far worse far worse than pulling over a car because they're coming from a shady business.
And what kind of service am I going to provide if I'm assigned to work at district?
Yep.
And I see this shit going on, and I'm like, I'm not going to turn a blind eye to that.
Yep.
I'm going to take care of it.
Yep.
So one night in particular, if you want me to get into it right now, Nick, who's probably one of the greatest cops I've ever known, if not the greatest, and he's proven himself.
I don't know. There's a lot of greatness in this room today.
Yeah, there
I don't know, Nick. I don't even know if you're on the podium in this class.
No. There's a big dude. There's a big ass podium. There's a lot of people on it, bro.
You ain't lying, bro.
Yeah.
We see a guy that's stepping out. I mean, he sees our patrol car come in. He's basically walking really fast. He's an old guy, and he kind of ducks down, and I see him make a tossing motion underneath the car. And we called him over and checked him. He had warrants, so we secured him. And we found the rock of cocaine that he had tossed underneath his car. And this was kind of a training moment for Nick. He was fairly new on the department. He's like, all right, well, let's take this guy to jail for the warrant, and we can get the shit tested and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, man, we're gonna talk to this individual.
We're gonna settle this one out of court. Are we not?
Right.
We're gonna settle this one out of court.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna settle it. That's
Let's make an agreement.
right.
Yes.
Right. So this individual, he said, well, I got it from this room. And we had a lot of success at this point, which was awesome because we were able to incorporate it with this investigation. Knocked on the door. We did a knock and talk. We got a signed consent to search form, and we ended up searching the hotel room and found a very, very large quantity of crack cocaine, about the size of a softball.
Yeah.
Underneath the bed with a lot of money. And I called the guys on SOS at the time. You know who they are, but they ran with it. And it turned into a huge thing.
You did, dude.
I got a beautiful award from the United States Attorney General, and so did Nick, and went all the way down to the cartel.
From a crack rock.
from a crack rock.
From the bottom up, baby.
Yeah.
From the bottom up.
Yeah.
And it was patience.
Yep.
It was communication, and it was knowing your good resources, because we have the best people. Or we had the best people in our special operations section. I would put them against anyone.
Yeah.
Anybody.
I agree.
And they did a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, and going back to the whole idea that we're not trying to slam a business is trying to be legitimate, but at the same time, they don't know who their clientele is. They have bills to pay. They have to rent rooms to people. Right. I had great relationships. I didn't. Later in my career, I got a chance to work in that area down there, but I had great relationships with the owners, the staff of a lot of these places that you're talking about. I mean, they wanted us to win as much as we wanted to win. They didn't want police tape outside of their business, on a Friday night. They wanted us to shoo away what potentially could be a problem. But it goes back to that military mindset of yours, right? Nick came on. You guys were just two peas in a pod. You knew how each other operated, and a lot like with Rob and I. Because Rob was a South End guy. I was a North End guy. I heard Rob in the South End. He heard me in the North End. And then later, way later, damn near a decade and a half, we got a chance to work together. But what never changed was our focus to service. Was our commitment to service. And like I said, it wasn't we weren't perfect every day and whatever, but damned if we weren't pretty close. Like we wanted to go in, we wanted to be smiling about something on the ride home. I wanted to wake up and feel good about what happened the night before. And that was the best feeling ever. I mean, that's just like a good cup of coffee. You wake up and you're like, damn, that was wild. But no one got hurt. The result was great. You're watching this old man walk through a parking lot, bro. And I wish I could go into detail of how successful that conspiracy case turned out to be. It was a Fed case. It was adopted by the feds, and it all started from what you described.
Yep.
It's incredible.
You know, and I think, Joel, it all comes back to what you said near the beginning of our discussion here about knowing your district and working your area and knowing your area. What is the best allocation for my police services in this area that I work? For you and Nick, and I remember too, you guys had a little protege, Nate Osborne.
Right.
You guys took him under your wing and had a lot of success with the hotels on the southeast side. At that time, I was on the southwest side, and I was dealing with a similar situation, but different in that you guys had all these hotels that you were doing hotel interdiction. The overwhelming majority of the district that I worked was apartments. It was apartment housing, right? And very similar to what you're saying, man, I had those apartment managers on a first name basis, and they would tell me, hey, apartment A or whatever it was, man, they got a lot of in and out traffic. You might want to go have a talk with them. And I would just the knock and talk, just like what you said. I'd knock on the door. I got information to the drug house and sign consent search later. Yeah. And it's pounds of shit everywhere and guns and drug dealers and this, that. And that came from knowing where am I going to spend my time? Where can I crack the rock with the most leverage here? And that's talking to your people and knowing your district, man, 100%.
And God bless you, man. I respect you. That southwest side,
That was a real deal back then.
that was a real deal, man.
Yeah.
And you were so damn brave and doing what you were doing. And my focus, so you got to look at the area where you're working at, your district.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a community policing officer on Baker Street, I had that 4 square by 4 square neighborhood, right? So when I'm working night shift in the southeast side of Lansing, I got the hotels, I got Beachfield, I got Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I would post my car up at Meyer a lot. Is that?
Are you
place-
saying stuff gets stolen from
No,
Myers?
I mean Meyer is a great.
yeah.
Store.
Oh, yeah.
I
It's
love
not their
Meyer.
fault. It's not their
100%.
fault.
I do. It's not their fault,
It's
man.
not their fault.
It's not their fault. Just like you were saying, the owners of,
all those businesses.
and I would actually talk to them sometimes during the day when I was on this. Well, thank you very much for what you're doing. I don't really know what's happening. Well, I'll take care of that for you.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So to your credit,
Yeah.
man, working where you were at, residential's a lot different.
It is. And, let's not forget, you're on the southeast corner. I'm on the southwest corner. And meanwhile, John Cosme's on the north side, and the North Enders are getting fanned while they're eating grapes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they did. They did.
They were up there with their feet up in the remote control. It might as well have been firefighters up there, man.
Listen, hold on, man. I don't have the ability right now to pull back the records, the official records of what went down the north end as opposed to what went down the south end. But I will never ever argue call load. You guys got murdered in the south end with call load.
They have it easy. I said, hey, Mount Hope is the new boundary. And they were like, well, we'll look into that, Joel.
Yeah. Here we are. Here we are.
Keep
knocking on the
it
door
calm.
30 years later. We got our best people on it right now.
Let's remind the folks that watch this podcast that are from Lansing. Man, we love this place.
Yeah, we do.
But we got in the business to deal with the shitbirds. And at the time, back in the day, when we're talking about what we're laughing about, it was a real deal, dude. We were coming out of the 90s, going into the 2000s. We had a lot more people working at the PD.
Man.
Rob and I got to experience post 2020. And when our profession got bastardized, on a national level, now we're dealing with, can we hire people that actually want to do the job as a calling, as opposed to, oh, let me try this. Let me try law enforcement. Let me do this thing that, most people don't want to do or whatever. It just felt different. In the beginning of my career, it felt different than way different than at the end of my career. How did that for you when you left?
We're going to talk about what it was like from 1991 until when I left.
Yeah.
Night and day, man. I mean, I could pursue somebody till the wheels fell off and ram them off the road.
Man,
Yeah.
no kidding.
And people were respectful of the police.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, if you're a bad guy and you're going to decide to commit a crime and you know that your district officer is going to catch your ass probably,
Yep.
or you know who's working that night, you might be less inclined to go out. Okay? So as far as law enforcement goes, I don't want it to be just an occupation. I want it to be a calling.
Yeah.
Because we need people that are going to go out there and they're going to say, you know, I may not be able to arrest every bad guy out there, but I'm going to keep their heads down.
Yeah. For damn sure.
I am going to
Joel.
protect mom and dad who want to go to the grocery store at 10 at night.
Yep.
And they're
great
not
point.
afraid of leaving their stuff in their car. They might forget it or a purse and it's going to get stolen.
Yep.
Or let's say we're from out of town and we want to stay at a hotel for the evening. I'm not going to have to worry about a shooting outside my room.
Right.
So I understand that, you know, they need to work on pay a little bit to attract people, but there has to be a calling too, man. We can't have you guys going out there and just, you know, this is just my job. No, you need to go out there and you need to keep the bad guys' heads down.
Yep. Yep.
That is a
Well said.
phenomenal point, my man. And I think too, you know what I've learned? You and me have not nearly as much in common as you and Kaz, right? Negotiator backgrounds and all these things, right? But your dad was a cop, my dad was a cop. Before us, Lansing, PD, all that, right? So I very much understand that connection, Joel. But you know, the thing about it is this. When what you just said, I absolutely felt that, man. You want the bad guys in your district looking over their shoulder and thinking about you as they're doing dirt.
You ain't lying, brother.
You know what I mean? And
You ain't lying.
even look, we tease the North End a little bit, but you guys worked hard up there, and I think that you did a phenomenal job on the Northwest side of keeping heads on a swivel up there as far as his big head working tonight, and they're looking around, looking for you to come out of the bushes on them, man.
But I love them people though,
I did
dude.
too.
The West Side folks.
I love my people too, man. I played football with them kids.
My
and everything,
goodness,
man. I love
bro.
it. Yeah.
Speaking of that, one time we were working overtime. I didn't realize you could throw a football the way you threw a football. But
Not anymore. Not anymore.
But yeah, no, if there's anything more, is there anything more meaningful than having a career where you're the people that the area that you work that they remembered you? Like you bump into people later and they're like, hey man, you retired, or what are you doing now, and this and that. It's like there's no better appreciation for me anyway than to get that back.
Yeah, man.
Because that's what we were supposed to be doing. And this, dude, I totally agree. If you're a criminal, you need to be scared.
Damn
You
right.
need to be scared. 100%.
And you know what it comes back to as well is both our fathers were in law enforcement. They didn't do it for the money because they
There you
didn't
go.
make shit.
No, they didn't.
I mean, we didn't even have a union contract, I think, until some of the old timers will probably correct me. But to go into court when you were working night shift, you didn't get paid to go into court in the early 70s.
Right?
So they did it because it was a calling.
Yeah.
They wanted to make a difference. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I've always respected Lansing. I respect the citizens. I respect the businesses. If I can go into Lansing, because I love Lansing. I'm a Lansing kid. I was born at Sparrow Hospital, lived on Fred Street, lived on Clemens Street until we moved out to Langsburg. I'm a Lansing kid.
Right?
My dad was a Lansing cop. My mom worked in Lansing. I love Lansing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I became a Lansing police officer, I wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I did.
100%,
Oh,
dude.
yeah, you bet.
And when you finally got it, like when you knew that you were good at what you're trying to do, man, what a feeling.
Oh, it is.
That's an incredible feeling. And I have to emphasize this, man, because I think when we talk about, you know, how our profession got bastardized post 2020, right? It's out of our control. It is. It's essentially out of our control because that political machine is what it is. But the two of you, right, being white officers, I'm compelled to say this. If you guys were working Interdiction hard, you were working Waverly hard, and the report came through and the prosecutors had to make a decision on the elements of the crime, the most unimportant thing was race. That report should have been submitted with the race element excluded, right? I can't wrap my head around why we spend so much time. And like you said, Rob, and I think you're absolutely right. We don't encourage the abuse of a very precious authority, right? But humans make mistakes, and if your mistake is found to be something that was led by some racial indiscretion, then sorry, you're fucking going to be held to the to the level of correctness that you need to be. But I will always defend my officers that were in this profession and had to deal with this wild thing that just made you feel like you were extra scrutinized because you happen to be white.
And I'm gonna tell you how I measured my success. So we had a great working relationship with the prosecutors.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was on patrol, 90s, the 2000s, and into my detective career, I could measure my success on my warrants issued.
There you go.
And if I did a knock and talk and some guy was like, you know what, nah, I'm not cool with that, I'd be like, okay, I'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I hope you like the color blue because it's all you're going to see.
Exactly. So I kind of, I mean, there were some prosecutors that would deny stuff, and I'm not going to get into all that just because that's who they were. But the prosecutors that I would respect, I very rarely got denied a warrant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm doing the right thing, man. I'm going to keep following this path. I respected people, and I looked at the law and I followed it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's consent, whatever search incident to an arrest, whether it's probable cause, whether it's an inventory search, I followed that. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, looking back on my career of 28 years, I really don't have any regrets.
You shouldn't,
Not
Joel.
one.
You shouldn't, brother. You should not.
Right.
The elements of a crime, just at the end of this discussion, are colorless.
Right?
The elements of a crime are colorless, right? We don't have the resources, and maybe we will or we could, but we don't have the resources to figure out why generationally your family continues to make, right? If there was some type of racial indiscretion that happened, whatever, when we're policing, we police elements of the crime. It has nothing to do with color. We can address these other issues, and hopefully we do, and I think we do, and I think the United States of America understands the importance of trying to wash away racism. But when it comes to law enforcement, hold us to the highest measure of accountability. That's gonna make us better. It just will.
Did you ever, in the relationships that you built with the prosecutor's office, did you ever call that office when, let's say, something was denied that you submitted and said, hey, this got denied, and I'm not going to argue that it got denied, but tell me why it got denied so I can get better on the next one?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Yep.
Especially as a detective. A detective is a case manager.
Yep.
When you get assigned a case as a detective, which I did my last 7-8 years as a police officer, you're not out actively patrolling, but you are the case manager at that point. And I took a lot of pride in my cases. Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit if it's $500 or if it's $300,000, like a fraud case I had.
Yeah.
I want to provide you the service you need. And if I submit a warrant, and I got to admit, I took it personally because I had my ducks in a row.
Everything's tight.
Everything's tight. So I
Yep.
want to know what this prosecutor needs, because sometimes you're going to get a prosecutor where they have their own individual criteria that they're going to need,
Yep.
which might be above the pale, or you might have one that just says, you know what, the elements are here, we'll issue.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's what you got to look at.
Damn right.
How many years were you a detective? Did we cover this already?
8.
8 years.
Yeah.
And what types of cases did you manage?
Every type.
Really?
Homicide, I was lead on, not a lot, but 3 or 4 homicides. I was special victims unit detective. And I was going to get into that
Yeah.
during the podcast, man, because I'm telling you. And oh, shit. So we talked about my military service and the stress at a young age. VCI, undercover, working the road, working homicides, none of that matches a special victims unit detective where you're dealing with children that are victims of abuse and sexual assault. Working kids' cases was the toughest job I ever had.
I believe it.
I bet.
And it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if there's ever a time that you want to do the best job that you can, it's with someone that cannot defend themselves.
100%.
And nobody is more defenseless than a kid. Man, I'll you know.
How many years did you do that, Joel?
I lasted, and I'm going to say lasted, because there's a life expectancy in that job.
Yeah, there is.
And I did it for 30 months.
When you were promoted to detective, Kaz and I were on the road, and so I can't really appreciate the stress of a detective seeing these cases through, but man, we can appreciate the stress on the front end. And I remember a call that I had. It was a little girl, and she was 3, maybe 4 years old. And mom's boyfriend had something really hot on the stove that was greasy, like what was in the pan. It wasn't water; it was some kind of food, and cooked down to grease. And the child was unattended, and the child went to the stove and stood up and reached up and grabbed the handle, and that hot grease poured on this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the officer that gets this call, and I'll tell you, man, you look at that, and I remember being in the intensive care unit at the hospital, and they were doing everything that they could with this child to prepare them for the life flight to the University of Michigan burn unit. And I remember the feeling that I had. And I'm not necessarily proud of this. I'm just disclosing how I felt. And like you and I agree, we're not going to duck history. You know what I mean? And I remember that it was absolutely neglectful. It was absolutely neglectful. This kid was unattended, and thankfully the child survived, but it was bad. And I remember being in the hospital, and a couple other cops that were there, and I told them, keep me away from this fucking boyfriend, because I will strangle him with my bare hands right now. Like
Right.
I was that emotionally to that point where I cannot look at this kid and process this. This is so foul. I can't imagine that that's all you're doing. Like that's your whole caseload. Oh my God, Joe.
Yeah.
We got called in Christmas Eve for one. I don't really like a lot of water cooler talk because this will traumatize some people. So
Sure.
I'm gonna try and keep it light.
Yep.
Okay. So Christmas Eve, I got called in where a 4-year-old, and I might have the ages incorrect, and a 2-year-old were raped.
Yep.
And it was filmed.
Oh my God.
And because I was a forensic analyst and I was working with the best people, T. Jones,
Yep.
bet.
Tracy
Unit
Jones.
I was in, Thalen,
Yep. Shannon Thalen.
great people.
Yep.
And I'm going to name them because we kicked ass.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what, working a case like that, and finally the chief at the time, Yank, told me, he says, you need to go home and go to bed. I said, we just got a little bit more to go, man. A little bit more to go. We had to look at video of these kids and stuff. The only reason why I'm giving a shout out to Special Victims Unit detectives, I don't give a shit if you're working in Lansing, New York City,
Yep.
Clinton County, Eaton County. I don't care. They don't get enough credit
Nope.
right.
I believe you, brother.
because I'm telling you, that shit lasts.
Yes, it
The
does.
stuff that you see, you can bury it, but it lasts.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what makes you Joel Mires, bro. That's what makes Tracy Jones. That's what makes Shannon Thalen. I remember Teresa Eisfelder was in, and then who was the other one? Elizabeth
Bonello.
My God.
Legend.
Elizabeth
Royce.
Royce.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Legend.
Holy shit. You talk about next level ability. All those people that I mentioned, I don't know that. I mean, when you describe it the way you just described it, anybody watching this podcast, if you just take 15 seconds just meditate on it, that ain't no place that anybody wants to be.
No way.
Watching this stuff because you have to. I don't know. I mean, and I've been in some shit, bro. I would decline that offer in a hot second.
There's no way I could do it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to some of the old timers that said, oh, you're going to kiddie crimes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, those aren't for kids.
No.
Those crimes.
No.
They're for people that have a strong mental state and they can do a good job, and you don't want a lazy person in that. Let me
Yeah.
tell you what. You want somebody that's going to do a damn good job.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody has to do it, Joel.
Right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, somebody has to do it, and we wish everybody in law enforcement wishes that part of our law enforcement career could just wash away and go away, and no one would ever commit those kind of stupid ass crimes. But yeah, hats off to those people, yourself included, that took the time to take on that task. It's incredible.
So, Joel, you gave a lot of love to your boy Nick Hewitt. You guys worked together very, very well as a partnership back in the day, doing hotel interdiction. And as a little preparation for this podcast with you, behind your back, we reached out to Nick Hewitt. Okay? And we said to Nick Hewitt, give us a little direction on how we can get Joel to get a little red in the face, because nobody knows Joel Mires better than Nick Hewitt. And he told me zero details. He gave me no information, Kaz. He just simply told me to ask you about Lake Interstate.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Pete.
I don't have any idea what this is about.
I have no idea.
Frickin' Nate Osborne.
Yep.
Oh, God. So anyways, so I needed to talk to Nick about some family issues, right? But we needed to leave my house to, do a little talk.
Yeah.
So Nick was like, well, let's go for a drive right now, a couple beers, whatever. And right around the corner from where I lived off Windsor Highway is Lake Interstate. So we went down there and sat on the tailgate of his truck and had a couple beers, maybe smoked a couple cigarettes, and an Eaton County deputy pulls up and he hits us with a spotlight. Apparently, I didn't know this, but Lake Interstate might be a place where people meet up in the evening.
Yeah.
And the deputy asked for our IDs. So, son of a... So, anyway, this person happened to be a friend of Nate, who's a mutual friend.
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, Nate, you got to razz these guys. I caught them at Lake Interstate. They were talking." So I come into lineup. It was either the next day or 2 days later. Not lineup, but I was in the locker room getting changed. And Nate says, "Hey, Joel." And I probably have whatever he said, probably not accurate. He's like, "What do you know about Lake Interstate?" And I was like, "Nobody's got any privacy around here." Which was the worst. Which was probably the worst thing that I could have said.
Because
he
loved
loved
in the
it.
water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, blood's in the
like
water.
Sharks with blood in the water, baby.
Overreact, it's your ass.
Oh yeah, you ain't lying, bro. You got to keep that shit in.
And I think somebody signed our names to the guardrail.
Yeah.
And Sharpie over there.
Oh my gosh.
Nick, Art, Joel.
Oh yeah. True love always.
That's fantastic.
Oh
dude.
my god.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very funny, Nick. Thank
Yeah.
you. There might be a specific incident in Grand Rapids when I was singing Soul Man,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we had the whole place freaking rocking.
Yeah. So can I lay the foundation for
I
this?
would like you to do that.
Yeah. So this was a multi-agency training session, and we befriended some guys, and I don't even know this guy's name to this second, but he seemed like he was about it. He had that hustle. He drove a all black Crown Vic, if I remember.
It was a Lincoln.
It was a Lincoln, right?
Right.
So we're humming it up in training, and he's got this Boston accent. He's just got this moxie to him, and I'm like, bro, we gotta go do something with this guy tonight. So we do, and we end up at this place, and he's like, I gotta take you to this place. It's my people. It's all this, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is an episode of The Sopranos. He drives us. He parks his car on the street, pulls out a parking ticket envelope, and slaps it under the windshield wiper blades so he doesn't get another traffic, like a parking ticket, like this is a thing this guy does. He walks us in. So our car's good. We're not going to get a ticket because it's been ticketed already. And we walk in the backside of this place, and there's like a dark door and another dark door, and then it opens up to this magical place, right? There's people, and we're all having fun, and it looks like a scene out of, I'm not lying, dude, like The Sopranos. It's, hey, meet my guy. These are my friends. These are this and that. These guys are shaking our hands, and they're kind of giving us the slant eye, like who are these people? They're not us,
Yeah. Especially looking at you. One of these kids doesn't look like the other.
Listen. Different strokes it takes. Different strokes it takes. So I'm walking in there, like, what is going on here? What are you talking about, Willis? So we get in there, and Joel, being the social butterfly that he is, recognizes that there's karaoke going on, and he gets up there, and I don't know how long we were there. But next thing you know, he's up there singing Soul Man or Mustang Sally or something. And the girls are jumping off the stools, and they're coming out. The dance floor is getting all filled up. And I'm standing behind Joel because I'm not going to leave him walking around this place because we always got our brother's back. And I have to find a role. So now I'm just this backup singer, bro. So I was like, Soul Man. And I'm in the back. I'm like, and Joel's killing it, and I was like, I gotta find a role here, and I was like, dude, how much fun did we have that night?
Yeah. Man, if I could encapsulate certain times in my life, that would be the one. Riding around with this dude from out east. Hey, I'm going to show you a good time. We're going to come over here. Hey,
I got some friends.
Going in these back doors. He's kissing people on the cheek, right?
He's not
we
lying.
go, and the next thing I know, I'm on fucking stage.
Yeah, doing your
I'm
thing,
fucking
bro.
rocking it, dude.
Yeah, man.
People are like, I'm going to get up and dance to this shit. I mean, chicks are looking up at us. and he's in the background. I got my buddy's back, you know.
Oh my God.
Okay, but
Okay. Do I hear the air saxophone?
Yeah, I was following Joel's lead, and that's a hard thing to do, bro.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, but I was back there moving my shoulders, trying to get it was great, dude. You know, we were responsible, and we safely get a ride back.
Yeah, we did.
To our hotel, and then we're in training the next day, and we're just sucking up all this great stuff, dude. Listen, this is the best seat in the house. Like when you work hard, you deserve to play hard. Be safe. To all the young people that might listen to this, or people midway through their career, be safe when you're having fun. Be smart about it. I mean, there's no reason for you to get jammed up on a Dewey. There's no reason for you to get jammed up on anything stupid. There's just too many things out there to make sure that you get home safely. And just do that. But if you work hard and you play hard, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But you can't, you can't just do that all the time. There's you can't overindulge. But I loved it, dude. I loved going to training with you. I knew that I was in the right company when I was having just as much fun outside of all the responsibility as I was having when I was responsible for all that stuff. Yeah. Good times, dude.
It's awesome.
Absolutely good times. So, dude, we always ask this, right? And I don't know if this is the right time to ask it because, Rob, you're very good at asking this in all of our podcasts, but we talk about all this stuff and then the history and how impactful this, I'm sure you would do it again, how impactful this career was in our lives and how important it was for everything that we do. For young people, right, that are looking at doing this profession. And it's different now. I really do. I really think that the effects of post-2020 has clouded up the importance of this career, right? The calling of this career. If somebody was thinking about doing this, right, the job of law enforcement, what would you say to them as someone interested in this career?
my advice to young people is it is a very rewarding job.
Yep.
You can leave this career like I did and just understand, you know what, I made a difference. I made good connections, man. I made a difference in my community. Mm-hmm. And once they decide to do that, and honestly, a lot of police departments are understanding the importance of a fair salary. So you can make decent money.
Yep.
And I think you can get good benefits. But once you get into it, I'm going to offer everyone advice. Keep yourself in good physical shape.
Yep.
Take care of your personal stuff so that when you come to work, you can focus on doing a good job.
Yes.
Right. And that's the advice that I would give anyone. And make the most out of your law enforcement career. Be diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Volunteer. My God, I was in community policing, honor guard for 20 years, SWAT team or START team, as we call it. I was a detective. I worked in the Michigan State Police and Internet Crimes Against Children unit. I worked homicide cases. I was lead on. It was a rewarding career for me, and I would never second guess my career choice. So that's what I would give them.
There's no other way to end this podcast.
Yeah.
Besides Soul Man.
One bar, bro.
One bar.
I got your back, homie.
I think we at least got to get to the backup saxophone to the doo-doo-doo. I'm a soul.
Coming to you on a dusty road. Good loving, I got a truckload. And when you get it, I got something. So don't worry, 'cause I'm coming. I'm a soul man.